Incredible reveal, Marine Colonel shocked by heartwarming call sign that transformed their lives. Colonel Jack Harris stepped off the bus, the quaint town of Maplewood greeting him like an old friend. The familiar sights, the diner, the corner store, the majestic oak tree brought waves of nostalgia. Yet, there was something dramatically different now. Echoes of laughter, whispers of camaraderie, but the most deafening silence came from the one place he couldn't bear, his home. His heart ached for his son, Ethan, who he had left behind too many times. Jack was a decorated Marine. He could lead men into battle, yet here, in the heart of his own family, he felt lost and hollow. As the annual Memorial Day parade approached, the town bustled with excitement. Citizens hung flags, painted signs, and prepared for the celebration to honor their heroes. But for Jack, each cheerful sound was a crisp reminder of what he was missing: an unbreakable bond with his son. He couldn't help but think of the dinners he sacrificed for military briefings, the bedtime stories missed in favor of deployment training, and the countless moments lost like grains of sand in an hourglass. The weight of his neglect pressed heavily upon him. Ethan, a determined young man with his father's chin and a heart full of hope, had seized on this occasion to enact change. With the guidance of Mrs. Thompson, a beloved retired school teacher, he poured his heart into crafting a tribute for the veterans, a project that would symbolize not just sacrifice but reconciliation. They stumbled upon Jack's old call sign, Ghost, a name that had brought him pride in the chaos of war. But now, as dusty memories resurfaced, it felt more like a shadow lurking over his son, the feeling that a soldier could confront enemies abroad but was powerless to connect with his own flesh and blood. As Ethan worked tirelessly, Jack felt the shadows close in. He watched his son from afar, feeling a tightening in his chest, a mixture of admiration and regret. Every cheer of the townsfolk felt heavier, every smile a reminder of the pretense he stood behind. Deep down, he longed to know what Ethan was feeling, what dreams danced behind his young eyes. Would he see Ghost as a hero or as a dad who couldn't be there? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the parade day dawned, anticipation crackled in the air. Jack stood at the sideline, his heart racing. He watched Ethan, clutching his tribute, standing at the front line, ready to address the crowd. The words Ghost on the banner seemed both a celebration and a haunting lament. Jack's pulse quickened. He could remain a ghost watching from the sidelines, or he could step forward and be the father Ethan needed. Would he allow himself to embrace vulnerability? As cheers erupted and the anthem played, Jack stood there, teetering between the past and a hopeful future, knowing that one decision could reshape everything. Would he let the moment slip away, or would he dare to reach for the life he once lost, the love still waiting to be reclaimed? Only time would tell if a father and son's fractured bond could be mended, or if it remained forever in the shadows. The crowd swelled, a wave of red, white, and blue surging toward the sky. Jack's heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the doubts that whirled inside him. Ethan's confidence radiated as he took a deep breath, preparing to speak, but Jack remained frozen. Voices around him filled the air, laughter, applause, the sounds of a community celebrating together, yet he felt as though he was encased in glass, watching the warmth and connection he yearned for but remained just out of reach. Ladies and gentlemen. Ethan's voice rang out, clear and strong. Jack's gaze snapped to his son, who stood tall and proud in front of the microphone. Today, we honor those who protect our freedoms, but we also recognize the bonds that matter just as much. The crowd quieted, their attention firmly on Ethan. Jack swallowed hard, suddenly feeling the weight of his absence. Had he ever really been a part of this moment? The longing in his chest twisted painfully. Jack fought his rising emotions, regret clawing at him. Would his son's words be for him? Would they understand the ache that pulsed through this celebration? He forced himself to step forward, inching closer, drawn by Ethan's call. If there was ever a chance to reconnect, it might be here, today, in front of everyone, with the love and strength of their community surrounding them. With every word Ethan spoke, his son revealed his heart, the pain of separation, the longing for a father who was always fighting battles far away. I've learned that while heroes wear uniforms, love is the strongest armor of all. Ethan's eyes flitted through the crowd as if searching for someone. Jack felt a surge of hope but also an icy breath of fear. What if Ethan's search didn't end in him? Was he strong enough to reveal himself? As if sensing Jack's turmoil, Ethan's voice cracked slightly. Sometimes, the ones we miss the most are right in front of us. The silence that followed was deafening. The crowd clasped their hands, an invisible bond of shared emotions knitting them closer. Jack's breath felt trapped in his throat. Why did he feel both proud and terrified? He tried to shake off the paralysis, yet it was hard. Would the doubt in his heart be an unraveling of everything Ethan had built? What if he took that next step and it shattered both their hopes? The air felt electric with expectation. The moment loomed large, heavy with possibility and threat. "Dad, I need you to know." Ethan's words almost broke Jack, sounding like a lifeline tossed into a turbulent sea. Jack took a decisive step forward, heart hammering, heat rising to his face. But then he hesitated again. Could one moment really change everything? Could he let the fear of failure hold him back, or dare to embrace the chance at redemption? As he gathered courage, the warm glow of sunlight bathed the smiling faces in front of him. Ethan's eyes locked onto his, a mixture of determination and vulnerability shining through. In that instant, Jack made his choice. He would no longer stay hidden. But just as he opened his mouth, ready to step into the light, a loud crash erupted from the parade floats, sending a shockwave of panic rippling through the crowd. His heart raced, but it wasn't the fear he once knew. It was fear of losing this moment, the connection with his son about to ignite, slipping away yet again. How could he fight for both love and safety in a single breath? Would chaos once more swallow their chance? Would he manage to embrace the very love that had been waiting for him? The sound of the crash hung in the air like a thunderbolt. Jack's heart skipped a beat as he turned to the source of the commotion. A float had overturned, spilling colorful decorations and creating an instant wave of fear. People gasped, stepping back, their joy replaced by uncertainty. Ethan's eyes were still on Jack, pleading, yet the chaos around them rumbled like a storm ready to break. "Dad!" he shouted, his voice now tinged with urgency. "Stay here." But the instinct to help surged within Jack, a primal urge to protect what mattered most. Time slowed as Jack scanned the scene. Children clutched their parents, faces wide with panic, while others rushed toward the embellishments littering the ground. To his left, an elderly woman leaned against the barrier, terror etched in her features. He hesitated, glancing back at Ethan, caught in a moment that was both fleeting and profound. "Dad, we need to help." Ethan shouted again, stepping off the stage, ready to move towards the wreckage. The crowd streamed forward, a mix of bravery and fear. Each second felt like a lifetime, the choice heavy in Jack's chest. Was he really going to let fear define him again? With a deep breath, Jack stepped into the fray, moving toward the float. "I'm coming!" he yelled, breaking through the crowd. People were already riding the float, but it seemed as though everyone was fighting the confusion, losing the sense of unity that just moments ago had made the day joyful. As he joined the effort, lifting the overturned decorations, he saw Ethan beside him, his face a blend of worry and determination. The moment felt surreal, the chaos buzzing around them like angry bees. They worked side by side, people of all backgrounds joined together in a single goal, restoring peace to a moment marred by fear. "Jack," a voice called from just beyond the crowd's edges. It was Tom, their neighbor, rushing in with a group of men who looked equally as intent. They equipped themselves with makeshift tools, ready to clear the debris. Tom's eyes were fierce with focus, and for the first time, Jack felt a surge of camaraderie with his neighbors. "Let us go!" Jack shouted, dreaming up a new purpose etched in the shared emergency. They lifted together, the float slowly returning to a stand, not completely right, but standing nonetheless. "Keep it steady," Jack urged, the words falling into teamwork like whispers of expectation. Finally, with one last push, the float was upright. The crowd erupted into applause, cheers replacing the earlier panic, rising into the evening sky. Jack felt a weight lift not just from his shoulders but from his heart. Ethan turned to him, eyes bright as stars. "You did it, Dad." Jack raised his hand to clap his son on the shoulder, a tender recognition between them. It felt different now, as if they'd salvaged more than just a float from disaster. In that moment, Jack suddenly realized the beauty of connection pressed under layers of both love and worry. He could feel Ethan's hope blooming, pushing through the fears he'd held onto for too long. This chaos had reframed their day, wrapping them in a new light. But could he finally say what he needed to? The crowd was slowly dispersing, but Jack felt the urgency rise once more within him. Ethan was still there, waiting, every heartbeat echoing the words they had yet to share. "Ethan, listen," Jack started, squeezing his son's arm. But just as he prepared to finally say what lingered on his heart, a shrill scream pierced the air. Nearby, a young girl had stumbled, falling into the path of another float. Jack's instincts kicked in, and in the blink of an eye, he was running again, vision narrowing to her fearful face. Would he truly be ready to embrace both the love and responsibility of fatherhood, or would this moment slip through his fingers as so many had done before? Jack sprinted toward the float, the chaos of the moment sharpening his focus. His heart thundered in his chest, adrenaline coursing through him as he shouted for the girl to move. "Get back! Move to the side!" The fear on her face twisted Jack's gut. He didn't have time to think, he just moved. He saw the float inching forward, wheels grating against pavement, oblivious to the hazard beneath it. It felt like a slow-motion nightmare. Ethan was right behind him, shouting encouragement, but Jack didn't look back. The sound of the crowd faded, replaced by the pounding of his pulse in his ears. Each step he took felt heavier as he lunged towards the girl, instinct taking over. He reached her just in time, wrapping his arms around her tiny waist and pulling her out of harm's way as the float swerved past them. They tumbled onto the asphalt, Jack landing on top of her, shielding her from any possible injury. As the dust settled and the crowd held its collective breath, he glanced down into her wide eyes filled with a mixture of shock and gratitude. "Are you okay?" he asked, scrambling to sit back on his knees. He felt the reassuring warmth of her small body against him, and he was startled to see a tear rolling down her cheek. With a hesitant nod, she whispered, "I thought I was going to hey, you're safe now," Jack interrupted gently, brushing her hair away from her face with a shaky hand. He felt a rush of relief but could see the child's eyes shift, fear momentarily replaced by awe. Ethan was right beside him now, concern etched across his face. "Dad, that was amazing. You saved her." The girl looked at Ethan, wide-eyed. "You're brave too," she exclaimed with admiration, her fear dissipating as she perched on her knees, scabbed knees barely a concern in the wake of the moment. Jack's heart soared, a lightness mingling with the gravity of what had just happened. He could feel the crowd's tension shifting back to relief, applause ringing in the air like music. They had come together before in a storm, and here they were again, united in a different, heart-stopping bond. "Thank you." The girl's mother rushed over, breathless with worry, embracing her little girl tightly. Jack's heart skipped, he could feel the sheer relief radiating off of her as tears glistened in her eyes. Jack stood, brushing himself off. He just wanted to put one foot in front of the other and prepare for whatever was next. In that instant, standing among a crowd of strangers who felt like friends, he knew he had changed, but he needed to share that depth he felt with Ethan. "Can we talk now?" Jack started, the world around them fading, drawing Ethan in. "Absolutely," Ethan replied, eyes eager for the conversation they'd put off before, but suddenly, another scream arose from the edge of the crowd, turning heads and bringing back the tidal wave of fear. Jack glanced over just in time to see a man lurching forward, clutching his chest, his face ashen. "Get help!" someone shouted, panic gripping them all again. Jack felt his resolve harden. This was not over yet. "Ethan," he turned back, urgency ringing in his voice, "stay close, okay? I'll handle it." As he struggled against the crowd surging around them, he realized that every moment of hope they gained could easily be eclipsed by another, darker twist of fate. Would he be strong enough to face whatever came next, ready to protect Ethan in every way that mattered? A shiver ran down his spine as he pushed forward. What would it take for him to embrace all that fatherhood meant? Jack pushed through the gathering crowd, the urgency igniting every muscle in his body. His mind raced with one thought: get to the man before it was too late. The once cheerful atmosphere of the parade felt heavy, the sounds morphing into an anxious buzz as everyone tried to understand what was happening. Ethan moved beside him, eyes wide, still processing the earlier incident. "Dad, is he okay? What happened?" Jack threw a glance at his son, a mix of reassurance and worry crossing his face. "I don't know, buddy. We just have to help him." As they reached the man, Jack could see the distress etched across his features. Clutching his chest, he collapsed on the pavement. Jack dropped to his knees, instinctively feeling for a pulse, which was weak but present. "Stay with us, sir. Help is on the way," Jack shouted, his voice steadying despite the chaos around them. He took a quick breath, focusing. "Ethan, can you run back to that food stall and get some water? Hurry." Ethan hesitated. "But what if, go? Please." Jack urged, his heart racing alongside the man's. He could feel the weight of responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. Protecting his son was paramount, but in this moment, saving a stranger was just as vital. Ethan nodded, sprinting away, and Jack turned back to the man. "Hey, stay with me. You're going to be all right. Can you tell me your name?" The man opened his mouth, gasping for breath, his eyes wild with panic. Jack could see he was struggling. "Tom. Tom, all right, Tom. You're going to be okay. Just breathe. Help is coming." As Tom grimaced in pain, Jack's gaze shifted back to the crowd. People were staring, whispering, some were even recording it on their phones. But all Jack could focus on was Tom's trembling body. He pressed his hand against Tom's shoulder, grounding him, offering whatever solace he could muster. Jack's heart sank as he thought of Ethan. This hadn't been how he pictured introducing his son to bravery and responsibility. He had wanted to show him courage in a way that inspired confidence, not fear and mortality. A moment later, he heard hurried footsteps and looked up to see a paramedic pushing through the crowd. Relief washed over him. "Right here. He needs immediate assistance." Jack pointed, and the medic quickly assessed the situation, taking control of the scene. While others began to gather around, Jack stood back, still breathing hard from the intensity of it all. He felt the warmth of performance fade away, replaced by an uncomfortable chill. Had he truly saved anyone today? Or had he simply stumbled into mayhem? Ethan returned, water bottle in hand, but he looked confused. "Dad, I thought you were okay. I thought there was just one. Why is this happening?" Jack put a hand on his shoulder, their eyes locking. "Sometimes life throws things at us we don't expect. But we keep going. We help each other." Ethan nodded, the worry in his eyes softening a bit, but concern still lingered. The sirens wailed in the distance, approaching fast. Jack knew they would take care of Tom, but a deeper question tapped at his heart: what if something like this happened again? Just then, a loud cheer erupted from the crowd as they began to realize the worst was over, but Jack couldn't shake his doubts. He was caught between relief and fear. "I promise you, Ethan, we'll always be there for each other," Jack said, treading carefully through his own emotions. "But are you ready for whatever comes next?" Ethan looked up at him, a quiet resolve settling in his expression. As they made their way into the throng of people, another scream pierced the air. Jack's heart dropped. What awaited them now? Jack's heart raced as the scream echoed through the festive chaos. The joy of the parade swirled into something monstrous, a mixture of dread and uncertainty. He quickly scanned the crowd, searching for the source of the alarm. "Stay close, Ethan," he called, feeling the boy's small hand slip into his grip. The crowd shifted like waves, pushing and pulling them in different directions. The initial explosion of excitement had transformed into panic. People turned, their eyes wide, and whispers spread like wildfire. "What is happening?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Jack replied, his voice sharper than intended. He felt a surge of protectiveness. "We need to move." Then, the crowd's murmur shifted again, anticipation building. Jack strained to see past the throng. Through the elbowing masses, he caught sight of a woman standing on a float, her hands raised high. "It's okay. It's okay. We're safe," she shouted, her voice hopeful but edged with anxiety. Could it be? Jack's heart sank. He remembered the parade's rumor that this particular float would reveal something significant. Could this be the moment people were cheering for? Before he could contemplate further, a flash of blue caught his attention at the front of the float. A banner unfurled, revealing the words, "In honor of our heroes." Jack's breath caught. Was this about the military? Were they addressing something larger than the parade? Another shout came, louder this time. "Look! It's the veteran!" Jack pushed forward, feeling the crowd's energy shift once more, now filled with a strange mix of admiration and celebration. He and Ethan finally broke free from the pressing bodies and found themselves near the front. There, beside the float, stood a tall figure in uniform, a Marine colonel. His face was weathered but proud, and the crowd erupted into cheers. "Marine Corps! Thank you for your service!" Someone yelled, and the cheers multiplied, filling the air with a reverent energy. Jack felt a swell of pride as he watched the colonel, visibly moved by the outpouring of gratitude. The colonel raised a hand, and for a moment, the crowd quieted. "Thank you. Thank you all." His voice boomed. "It is my honor to stand here, not just for myself, but for all of you who serve. Today, we celebrate every one of our heroes." A burst of applause erupted, tearing through Jack's own sense of unease. As thoughts of Tom's collapse faded, he felt something shift within him, a recognition of courage emanating from the colonel. It wasn't just about them, it was about community, standing together. "Dad, look!" Ethan pointed. "He looks happy." "Yes," Jack replied, his voice softening. Powerful moments like these can remind us of all the good, even in the worst situations. But as he turned to Ethan, a flicker of unease still dwelled in his heart. It felt like a fragile balance, this realm of joy and pain, the constant reminder of the fragility of life. The colonel was stepping down, kneeling beside a little girl who had come forward with a handmade poster that read, "Thank you." He embraced her, and the crowd erupted again, laughter mingled with tears of pride. Jack watched intently, feeling the warmth of the moment. He turned to Ethan, who seemed glued to the scene. "See? People can come together. They can turn into something greater, even in times of difficulty." Ethan nodded. Maybe it really is about helping each other after all. Jack's heart swelled. Just then, the cries of a child broke his reverie, a single, sharp cry that sent a chill down his spine. He whipped back in time to see people shuffling again, eyes wide and frantic. "Dad!" Ethan gasped. Jack's stomach churned. Not again. What lay ahead could shift everything once more. Would they find help in a moment of chaos again? With each passing second, Jack knew they were on the brink of something that would change everything. What if it's worse this time? Jack thought, gripping Ethan's shoulder, voices clamoring around them as they braced for another storm. The crowd pulsed around Jack and Ethan like a living thing, a wave of uncertainty and tension rolling through the throng. The cheerful parade atmosphere was evaporating, the celebration dampened by a rising tide of fear. Jack's breaths came heavy, each one filled with the urgency to protect his son, to shield him from whatever lay ahead. "Keep your eyes on me, Ethan," Jack said, keeping his voice steady despite his racing heart. A scattered chorus of gasps and shouts turned the air electric, closing in around them like a vice. Jack scanned the sea of faces, desperate to identify the source of distress. Suddenly, from the edge of the crowd, he spotted a woman clutching her child, her expression a mix of horror and shock. "Where's the baby?" she cried, panic rising as people turned to see what had happened. Jack's stomach dropped. "Please don't be that kind of terrible," he thought, feeling Ethan squeeze his hand tighter. He felt the boy's small frame shiver beside him, but Jack kept his eyes fixed ahead. There had to be a way to help. Just then, the Marine colonel, still near the float, turned sharply at the sound of the commotion. Jack watched as the man's expression morphed from pride to concern. He jumped into action, gesturing for everyone to clear space. With a commanding presence, he called out, "Everyone! Stay calm. Let us make some space." The crowd shifted, reluctantly parting for him. Jack felt a flicker of hope. The colonel was focused, amplifying the strength he embodied in uniform. Jack realized, in that moment, this could change everything for someone in need. Ethan's gaze focused on the colonel. "Do you think he can help?" "I sure hope so," Jack replied, impressed by Ethan's bravery. The colonel reached the distressed mother, kneeling before her as he assessed the situation. "What has happened, ma'am?" he asked, his voice firm yet warm. She clutched her child even tighter and murmured something incoherent, and suddenly, Jack saw her point towards a food stand just behind the float. Without hesitation, the colonel rose and moved toward the stand. Jack followed, his feet carrying him with purpose. Soon they reached a cluster of onlookers who seemed fixated on a scene just beyond the barriers. Jack's heart raced again, worry clawing at him. But it wasn't fear for Ethan he felt now, it was a sense of solidarity for those seeking help. "Is everyone okay?" the colonel shouted, scanning faces until one of the ladies, a vendor with an apron covered in colorful stains, stepped forward. I think a child wandered off," she stammered, her eyes wild. "Stay with me," the colonel ordered, and there was a commanding presence about him that drew everyone's attention. "We're going to find that little one. It's okay," the crowd murmured, a worrying kind of energy settling thick in the air. Jack could see Ethan's small figure trembling, but beneath it all, Jack felt that flicker of community again. People began to shout encouraging words, rallying around the colonel's leadership. "We're with you. We can find them." As they formed a loose search party, Jack felt his fears subside just a little. Maybe, just maybe, this moment could become one of hope instead of despair. The sense of urgency hung over them all, a collective heartbeat pulsing with faith in their small community. "Dad?" Ethan's voice broke through Jack's thoughts, wide-eyed and earnest. "What if they don't find the child?" Jack knelt down, meeting Ethan's gaze. "Then we won't stop until we do. They're not alone. Just like you and me. We'll stay together, no matter what." A sense of purpose surged through him, a reminder of everything that mattered. They could make a difference, even in the midst of chaos, but as the search intensified and the crowd's whispers turned to frantic calls, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that behind this moment of unity, another challenge was waiting to unfold. With the colonel leading the charge, Jack knew they were on the brink of uncovering something beyond just a lost child, a deeper truth that would reshape their understanding of bravery and connection. As they moved, he felt the tension tighten around them, the weight of the unknown pressing hard. Would they uncover something that would forever change their lives? Or would the day turn to ashes in their hands once more? The crowd pressed inward, energy flickering like an unwelcome flame. Jack felt the pulse of anxiety in the air, a thrum of worry as people wrestled with the unknown. Ethan stood close, every so often glancing up at his father, the unvoiced questions evident in his young eyes. "Dad, what if?" Ethan's voice trailed off, the fear of what lay ahead choking the rest of his thought away. Jack squeezed his son's hand, a silent vow that they were in this together. "Just focus on what we can do," Jack said. "We'll find the child. We must." Up ahead, the colonel was taking command, moving with a determination that resonated through the anxious crowd. He radiated strength, his uniform pressing down against the chaos like a steady hand on a trembling shoulder. "Listen up, everyone." The colonel's voice boomed, layered with authority. "We need organized lines, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and we'll move down the lane. Look for any sign of a lost little one." Jack could feel the crowd shifting, people nodding in agreement, finding strength in the colonel's plan. He caught the eyes of a few neighbors in their little community, faces crinkled with concern but eager for action. Together, they formed a line, scanning the area with newfound urgency. "Let us go!" shouted the colonel, igniting movement within the throng. Jack felt Ethan's small hand slip from his grip as his son darted forward, drawn by the energy of the moment. Jack tightened his jaw, both pride and anxiety dancing in his chest as he followed close behind. "Here!" A voice piped up a shrill sound that cut through the chaos. A woman in a bright yellow dress was pointing wildly at a nearby alley. Jack's heart skipped a beat. "I think I saw him go that way. A little boy, he had a red shirt. On me." The colonel barked, rushing toward the alley with Jack hot on his heels. Ethan's footsteps echoed against the pavement as he sprinted, his small figure a beacon of excitement amid the gathering worried faces. As they reached the entrance to the alley, the air was thick with anticipation. "Stay together," Jack urged, eyes flitting to Ethan to ensure he was following closely. They moved forward, the colonel leading the charge, eyes sharp as they searched for any sign of a small figure amidst the shadows. "Over there!" shouted Ethan, excitement bubbling in his tone. He pointed toward a pile of boxes, and there, no more than a few feet away, was the missing child. A small boy in a red shirt sat, tears streaking his cheeks, looking utterly lost yet relieved to see them approach. "Thank goodness," Jack breathed, his heart swelling with relief. The colonel stepped forward, kneeling down to be eye level with the child. "Hey there, buddy, you all right?" His voice softened, and the boy nodded slowly, still sniffling but comforted by the colonel's presence. Before the moment could deepen, a hand reached up from behind Jack. A familiar voice whispered, "You did it. You found him." Jack turned to see the woman who had been searching, her face lighting up as she ran toward her son. But as she reached for him, the child recoiled, the fear in his eyes growing again. In that split second, time ground to a halt. Jack felt a sudden flood of emotion. This was not only about the lost child anymore. This was about connection, fear, and understanding. "Wait," Jack called out, dread mixing with hope. "Let the colonel talk to him." The colonel paused, looking back at Jack, sensing the tide of emotions swirling amid the crowd. Everyone froze, the air thick with uncertainty. Would they bridge the gap of fear? Would kindness, once again, triumph over chaos? As the tension built, Jack realized that this moment was not just a rescue, it was the start of a revelation that could change their lives forever, a reminder that sometimes, it takes courage to reach out, even to those you think might turn away. "Maybe we can find a way to show him he's safe," the colonel said, his voice gently commanding like a lifeboat in a storm. Just then, an unexpected sound pierced the silence, a child's soft laughter bubbling up, a bright note amidst the tension. Jack's heart raced. Was this the breakthrough they needed? But all the emotions swirling around left one big question hovering in the air: could vulnerability and understanding triumph over fear, in the hearts of both adults and children alike? As they held their breaths, they waited for what would unfold next. The child shifted slightly, wiping his tears with the back of his small hand. The laughter echoed again, bright and innocent, cutting through the thick tension like a ray of sun breaking through clouds. Everyone held their breath, as if convinced that one sound could spark a fire of hope. "Where's your mom, buddy?" the colonel asked, his voice steady, leaning in closer. He had an aura that seemed to absorb all the fear around him, anchoring everyone in that moment. The lost boy's gaze flickered to the ground, thoughts racing behind his wide, frightened eyes. She was," the boy stammered, the words tumbling from his lips without direction. "I was just playing." The colonel glanced meaningfully at Jack, who felt a tight knot in his chest. They were about to dive deeper into something that required delicate handling. "It's okay," Jack said, kneeling beside the boy. "We're right here. You're safe now. Nobody is going to hurt you." The boy's gaze softened slightly, registering the warmth surrounding him. Jack could see the walls he had built beginning to tremble, just a little. Ethan, still buzzing with energy, sidled up to the boy and smiled. "I lost my parents once," he said, his voice small but firm, "but they found me. They always do." Jack's heart cracked open a bit more as he watched Ethan reach out, his innocent compassion shining like a beacon. The boy looked back at Ethan, perhaps feeling an echo of the same fear he felt earlier. "Do you want to play?" Ethan asked earnestly. "We can play together while we wait for your mom." The lost boy blinked, his world of worry quieting just a little bit with each second he spent with Jack's family. It was a sight to see, two children seized by fear only moments before now inching towards connection. The colonel straightened, casting a glance towards the gathered crowd that had held its breath in silence. "Everyone, let's create some space. We'll form a circle around them," he commanded, voice steady. This was a formation of safety, a protective buffer where other children and adults could join in, turning the crowd from alarming chaos into a unified force of warmth. As they stepped back, the atmosphere shifted. People began to chant softly, inviting the surrounding children to join the warmth and laughter. "It's okay. You're not alone. We'll help." Jack felt his pulse respond to the energy, a different kind of heartbeat now, the kind that thrived on community. A few neighbors stepped forward, shapes of comfort in the dim light of the alley. "Come on, buddy," Jack said, "you can play with us. What's your name?" The boy shifted again, finally managing a shy, "Tommy." "Great. Tommy, this is my son, Ethan," Jack introduced, guiding Ethan alongside him. "We're all going to watch out for you, just like we do for each other." Tommy's shoulders relaxed, and with a slow nod, he allowed the warmth to seep into his heart. For a moment, the lines of fear that had carved their way into his young face smoothed out. The power of understanding gleamed and gilded around them, but then, a sudden sound broke through, slicing their moment of tranquility, a shrill sound of a woman calling out, filled with panic, desperate and searching. "Tommy! Tommy!" They all turned at once, hearts hitching in their chests. The boy's face blanched, fear creeping back in as he clutched Ethan's hand tightly. "Mom!" he cried, pushing away from Jack and the colonel before they could react. "Tommy!" The woman, breathless and disheveled, darted into view, her panic-stricken face cracking open in a mixture of fear and relief. Jack's heart raced again as he looked back at Ethan. Would Tommy's mother see the warmth he found in their group? Would she understand that Tommy was safe and cherished in that moment? Just as Tommy raced towards his mother, Jack realized this was just the beginning. The connections they forged in this fear-laden moment could ripple out into something more profound, far beyond this alley. "Mom!" Tommy wailed, his voice echoing pure joy, and yet a pang of uncertainty curled in Jack's stomach. Would they still connect? Would the courage they all shared today turn into a bridge in the days to come? As mother and son finally embraced, tears streamed down her face. Jack held his breath, wondering if this was the transformation they needed, not just for Tommy's family, but for everyone involved. Could this chaotic scene, filled with anxiety, become a turning point for everyone's hearts? A question pushed to the forefront, echoing within the crowd. What would happen next wasn't just about the reunion, it was about the healing that might begin to unfold from here. Would vulnerability open doors they never expected? As mother and son clung to each other, the air around them shifted. The crowd that had witnessed the chaos, fear, and finally connection began to pulsate with an emotion long forgotten joy. Jack felt it too, a warm wave washing over him. This wasn't just about saving a child, it was about the love that surged through the community, binding them tightly. Ethan stepped forward, his small hand finding Jack's. "Are they going to be okay?" he asked, his voice tinged with innocence but now less worried, more hopeful. "Yes," Jack replied, feeling a weight lift. "They're going to be just fine." Watching the woman wipe her tears as she held Tommy close filled Jack with an overwhelming pride in Ethan, pride in the people around them who had come together to help a stranger. The colonel joined them, a reassuring presence amidst the gathering crowd. "You see," he said, addressing everyone around. "This is what happens when we stand together. Each act of kindness ripples out, creating more love than you can imagine." The crowd erupted into applause, the sound resonating with both relief and gratitude, and Jack felt tears prick his own eyes. For months, he had been wrestling with the shadow of regret, haunted by moments he had lost with his son. But in this one day, amid chaos and pain, he found a sliver of understanding what it truly meant to care. Ethan squeezed Jack's hand tighter and looked up at his father, eyes bright. "Dad, we helped. We really helped." Jack nodded, suddenly unwavering. "Yes, we did. And it feels incredible, doesn't it?" This connection wasn't just about moments missed, it was about creating new ones. Suddenly, Jack felt a rush of urgency. "Ethan," he said, his breath quickening, "let us go over to them." With all the courage he could muster, he led his son through the throng, their hearts beating anew, their spirits lifting with every step. As they reached the mother and Tommy, the warmth of the moment wrapped around Jack tightly. "Hi," he said, introducing himself. "I'm Jack, and this is my son, Ethan. We just wanted to make sure you both are okay." The woman looked up, gratitude spilling from her tear-filled eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know what I would have done without all of you." "No need to thank us," Ethan chimed in, the innocence of his words bringing a lighter atmosphere. "We just wanted to play with you." Tommy's face brightened, his fear seemingly melting away as he absorbed the acceptance around him. "Can we play now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jack glanced at Ethan, who was already nodding. "Of course. We can all play together," he said. In that moment, the chaos of the parade melted into laughter, children's voices ringing out, light and joyous. Jack stepped back, watching his son embody everything he had hoped for. This was what he wanted: connection, happiness, and the ability to grow together. As time passed, the parade resumed around them, each float passing with beautiful tributes. But amidst the celebration, Jack learned something profound. Life wasn't about perfection, it was about those imperfect moments that taught us how to lean on one another. As the events of the day came to a close, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and deep blue. The glow wrapped around Jack and Ethan, and for the first time, he felt a sense of peace. He knew they would be all right. "Come on, Ethan," he said, slipping his arm around his son's shoulder. "Let us get some ice cream." "Yeah. I'll be the hero who conquered fear," Ethan declared, his eyes shining. Jack chuckled, his heart swelling with warmth. "You were already a hero today, buddy. You brought everyone together. And it's time we kept bringing each other together." As they made their way through the crowd, hand in hand, the bond between father and son deepened, everything ahead brimming with hope. No more ghosts to haunt them, just love waiting to write new stories. This was just the beginning, a newfound closeness, waiting to embrace whatever challenges came next. And as the parade slowly faded into memories, one thing remained clear: they had begun to build a life where courage, love, and family always took center stage. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to catch our next exclusive stories. Don't wait not even one more second. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support really makes a difference. And comment below to share your feelings about this incredible ending. Let your friends know by sharing instantly with at least 5 people who need to see this transformation. Your voice matters.